Welcome to News Edge, your sharpest source for daily headlines and deep dives. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay ahead of the curve. A new wave of American trade policy is shaking the foundations of global commerce. The world's shipping lanes, once symbols of seamless international cooperation, are now at the center of a brewing storm. Every container loaded, every ship that sets sail, is now part of a much larger story, one that is rewriting the rules of how nations do business with each other. President Trump's aggressive tariffs mark a fundamental shift in how the U.S. engages with the world economy. These tariffs, imposed on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of goods, are not just numbers on a spreadsheet, they represent a new philosophy, one that prioritizes American interests above all else. Customs agents now scrutinize imports more closely, and the word tariff has become a daily headline. The main targets, emerging powers like the BRICS bloc, are now viewed with growing suspicion in Washington. Once seen as partners in global growth, these nations are increasingly cast as economic rivals. Diplomatic meetings are tense, and every handshake is weighed for its political significance. These measures touch everything from smartphones to gold, creating economic uncertainty for nations and corporations. The price of an iPhone, the value of gold, and the fate of entire industries now hang in the balance. Investors watch nervously as financial tickers swing wildly, reflecting the new volatility in global markets. For decades, the world moved toward freer trade. International agreements opened borders, and businesses flourished in a climate of cooperation. The handshake between partners symbolized trust and mutual benefit, and the global economy grew more interconnected with each passing year. Now, that trend is reversing. Borders are hardening, and the flow of goods is slowing. Container ships are sometimes turned away, and customs inspections are more rigorous than ever. The era of open trade is giving way to a new age of caution and control. The Trump administration claims this protectionism is needed to defend American jobs from unfair competition. Factories that once struggled are now being touted as symbols of national pride. The Made in USA label is making a comeback, and political leaders promise a revival of American manufacturing. Former partners now face steep penalties, forcing leaders and CEOs to adapt to a new, unpredictable landscape. Boardrooms are filled with urgent discussions, and international summits are marked by concern and uncertainty. Every decision carries new risks, as companies scramble to adjust supply chains and avoid costly tariffs. Tariffs are being used as tools for broader foreign policy goals, drawing a line between U.S. allies and rivals. Trade policy is no longer just about economics, it's about geopolitics. Negotiations are more complex, and alliances are being tested as countries are forced to pick sides. Economic alignment with competitors like China and Russia now comes at a cost. Deals that once seemed routine are now fraught with political risk. The world's largest economies are locked in a contest for influence, and every trade agreement is a potential flashpoint. The world is being forced to choose sides, with consequences for global stability and prosperity. Tensions at international meetings are palpable, and the global map is being redrawn along new lines of competition. Financial markets react instantly to every development, amplifying the sense of uncertainty. Companies like Apple feel the pressure, and safe haven assets like gold are climbing. Tech giants must navigate shifting regulations, while investors flock to gold as a hedge against instability. The ripple effects are felt from Silicon Valley to Wall Street and beyond. The tariff tsunami is here, reshaping the world in real time. As new barriers rise and old alliances are tested, the future of global trade hangs in the balance. The choices made today will determine the shape of the world economy for years to come. The new tariff offensive zeroes in on China, the world's second-largest economy and a powerhouse of global manufacturing. For years, China has been at the center of international trade, fueling growth and supplying goods to every corner of the globe. But now, the U.S. is taking direct aim, escalating tensions that have simmered beneath the surface for years. India, too, finds itself in the crosshairs. As another BRICS giant, India's rapid economic rise and growing influence have made it a key player in the global marketplace. Both nations are now facing unprecedented scrutiny and pressure from Washington. The U.S. government points to their continued purchase of Russian oil, arguing that these deals undermine Western sanctions and provide Moscow with vital revenue. This accusation has become a central justification for the new wave of tariffs as Washington seeks to isolate Russia economically. For China, the threat of a looming tariff deadline injects fresh volatility into already fraught trade relations. Negotiations have grown more tense, with both sides wary of making concessions. The uncertainty is rattling markets and boardrooms alike. The U.S. views China's expanding energy deals, not just with Russia, but with other sanctioned states, as a direct challenge to American foreign policy and global influence. These agreements are seen as strategic moves to secure resources and bypass Western pressure. India, meanwhile, is suddenly hit with a 50% tariff on key exports, a dramatic shift from previous U.S. encouragement to buy Russian oil. Indian businesses and officials are left scrambling to adapt, questioning the reliability of American partnership. This abrupt reversal has soured what was once a growing partnership, turning hopes for deeper cooperation into a climate of confrontation and mistrust. Diplomatic channels are strained, and both sides are reassessing their strategies. Meanwhile, a pending Supreme Court decision could determine just how much authority the president has to impose sweeping tariffs without congressional approval. The outcome could reshape the balance of power in U.S. trade policy for years to come. Former President Trump, a vocal advocate for aggressive tariffs, warns of dire consequences if presidential powers are curtailed. He argues that strong executive action is essential to protect American jobs and industries as new duties continue to roll out. By targeting the economic titans of the BRICS alliance, the White House is sending a clear message. The era of unchallenged globalism is ending, and a new age of economic nationalism is on the rise. The world is watching as the rules of international trade are rewritten in real time. The U.S.-India relationship faces its toughest test yet. New American tariffs over India's Russian oil purchases have chilled diplomatic ties. Economic policy now overrides personal rapport, forcing India to rethink its strategy. At the same time, the U.S. is strengthening ties with Pakistan, India's rival, alarming New Delhi. Modi's government faces criticism at home for relying too heavily on the U.S. The perception India's diplomatic investments haven't secured a reliable partnership. This pressure may push India to diversify alliances, including with other BRICS members. The standoff is a turning point, likely to redefine U.S.-India relations. For India, the lesson is clear. Over-reliance on a single partner is risky. A key Trump goal is bringing manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. Tariffs target American giants like Apple, pressuring them to move factories from China and India to U.S. soil. This reshoring push threatens countries that have become tech supply chain hubs, like India. Companies must now choose absorb tariff costs or relocate production at great expense. The practical challenges are immense, but the pressure is on. Corporate America is being forced to rethink its global footprint. Trump has drawn a clear line. Any nation supporting BRICS faces a 10% tariff on all exports to the U.S. The BRICS bloc, now 11 nations strong, is expanding its influence and discussing ways to reduce reliance on the U.S. dollar. The tariff threat is designed to discourage others from joining BRICS and to reassert American dominance. This policy uses economic leverage to achieve geopolitical aims, forcing countries to weigh the risks of siding with BRICS. The approach marks a sharp break from past diplomacy, casting BRICS as a direct economic rival. Washington signals it will use its economic might to counter any challenge. The world now faces a new phase of strategic competition. As a tariff moratorium ends, the Trump administration is rolling out a new generation of trade deals. New agreements with the UK and Vietnam focus on closing loopholes that let countries dodge U.S. tariffs. The Vietnam deal, for example, imposes higher tariffs on goods routed through third countries to prevent transshipment. Trump argues these strict rules are essential to protect American industries. The new approach favors bilateral deals over broad multilateral agreements. The message exploiting global supply chain loopholes is over. This strategy aims to realign manufacturing and trade flows in America's favor. The era of managed, restrictive trade has arrived. Trump's tariffs ripple across industries, from cars to tech. Automakers like Toyota and Honda warn of higher costs and prices for consumers. The tech sector faces 100% duties on semiconductors, threatening global supply chains and raising device prices. Even gold imports and consumer brands like Under Armour are hit, squeezing profits and forcing strategy shifts. Few sectors are untouched. Businesses must now rethink sourcing and production. The age of predictable, low-cost supply chains is ending. Volatility and geopolitics now define global commerce. The world is pushing back against sweeping U.S. tariffs. Targeted nations are negotiating for exemptions and launching retaliatory tariffs on American goods. This tit-for-tat cycle risks escalating trade wars and damaging the global economy. Trump claims tariffs will boost U.S. revenue and jobs, but critics warn they're attacks on consumers. Higher import costs could fuel inflation and slow economic growth. U.S. industries reliant on imports or facing retaliation may lose jobs. Business leaders warn that uncertainty is stalling investment and disrupting supply chains. The fear prolonged trade conflict could drag down global growth. The world watches anxiously as this high-stakes experiment unfolds. In uncertain times, investors instinctively flock to safe assets, seeking shelter from the storm. Gold, long considered a haven in turbulent markets, is now surging as global trade tensions and geopolitical risks intensify. The precious metal's enduring appeal lies in its ability to retain value when other investments falter, making it a preferred choice for those looking to preserve their wealth. The escalating conflict between the U.S. and the BRICS nations, combined with mounting fears of inflation, is driving unprecedented demand for gold. Investors are increasingly wary of currency devaluation and the erosion of purchasing power, prompting them to seek refuge in tangible assets. Some analysts now predict that gold could reach as high as $4,000 an ounce if current trends continue. This dramatic forecast reflects not only market anxiety, but also a growing belief that traditional financial systems are under strain. A global shift away from the US dollar is underway, raising questions about its future as the world's reserve currency. As more countries diversify their reserves, the dollar's dominance faces new challenges. For the United States, this shift could mean higher borrowing costs, reduced financial influence on the world stage, and increased vulnerability to external shocks. The ripple effects could be felt across global markets. Globally, these changes signal a move toward a more multipolar monetary system, where power and influence are distributed among several key economies rather than concentrated in one. The current gold rush is a clear reflection of deep unease with the breakdown of free trade and the unraveling of globalization. Investors are reacting to a world where old certainties are fading. The risk of a global recession is very real as tariffs rise, supply chains are disrupted, and economic retaliation escalates. Headlines warn of a slowdown that could impact millions of lives. The Trump administration is betting on a stronger, more self-reliant America, but the outcome of these bold policies remains uncertain. The world watches closely as the stakes grow higher. For now, the dramatic rise in gold prices serves as a barometer of global fear and the ongoing search for stability in a rapidly changing world. As uncertainty persists, gold's allure only grows stronger.